No clapping. This is clapless. This is going to be a clapless episode. Okay,
Yeah.
there's no clapping. Okay.
Clapless.
Hello, and welcome to Post-Production Podcast. I'm Mr. Drew, and here with me, of course, is our co-host, Adam.
Hello.
No clapping.
No clapping.
No clapping
Don't do
allowed. Thanks for listening as we talk about the latest in movies, TVs, trailers, and gaming news, but also as we look back at some of the most iconic and cult classic movies of the last half century. Today, we have got Thor Ragnarok to talk about. And what we did was, instead of doing an iconic movie, we went back, and because the director is Taika Waititi.
Perfect.
Hey, I thought I was going to butcher that. Nailed it. We went back and we looked at one of his previous movies called What We Do in the Shadows.
Yes. And we loved it. Well, we'll talk about it.
No, we loved it. We're going to talk a little gaming news, and then we're going to kind of go back and forth on what I'm watching, what Adam's watching, maybe some recommendations for some of you listeners.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's jump right into our clapless episode. That's the theme. What We Do in the Shadows.
So what'd you think?
So I haven't seen anything from Taika Waititi before.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about him. I really didn't have any background on him. So, we looked at this movie. I watched it in two parts because I watched the first half and I was struggling to really get through it. I was like, I didn't know if I had to be in the right kind of mood for that kind of humor. It's very dry, sort of witty humor. It just wasn't kind of going with me. And then I watched the rest of it and it wasn't my mood. It just wasn't for me.
Okay.
There's some really good funny parts in it. I think
Yeah.
I giggled hilariously when oh my god, I had him right here. It was on the tip of my tongue. When Deacon, one of the vampires, flies into some power lines as a bat, and I just, that was just so funny because it just makes perfect sense. But what did you think?
Yeah, so I watched it all in one take. I loved it. I thought it was hilarious, to be honest. And yeah, I mean, I've never seen any of Taika Waititi's movies, but everyone kind of raves about them. And everyone was really excited when they announced that he was going to be the director of Thor. So naturally, going back, seeing, and actually, I think you did half of it before Thor and then half of it after.
Yes. Yeah.
See, and I was meaning to do it before, but I ended up watching it after we watched Thor, and definitely similarities in directing and comedy and everything.
Oh, you can can definitely tell that it's the same director.
Yeah. And he's really great. Like, and I follow him on Twitter, and I've seen a bunch of interviews with him, and he's such a funny dude, and I don't think he takes anything seriously, or it doesn't seem like it, but that's just the kind of fun kind of guy that he is. And it really shows in his movies. Like, that's his sense of humor, and no one else really has that kind of sense of humor. It makes him really unique.
Yeah, I got that from what we do in the Shadows. I liked the premise of the movie. I mean, a documentary, following a bunch of vampires around, and you see this great, not only kind of comedic genius, but you see this great kind of reality genius from Taika Waititi in just a simple aspect of, here you have this den, and for those of you who haven't watched it, sorry, this is going to be a spoilers on this because we have to kind of get into this to talk about
full
it.
Spoilers.
But you got this small den of vampires, and they live together in a flat, and they all have these common day struggles, and it's funny. It's real, and you kind of feel, because you can relate. I think a lot of people would be like, yeah, I can't relate to a vampire. And it's like, yes, they're vampires. Yes, they need to feed on people and blood. They can only live at night. But at the same time, somebody's got to wash the dishes.
Yeah. The dishes haven't been washed in 5 years,
Yeah.
and that's a problem. But Yeah, I mean, something about this movie that I really liked. I mean, Taika Waititi, I'm so glad that he was in the movie because I liked his character the best.
Yes, yeah, no, he was good.
He was definitely like so funny to me, like from beginning to end, and I think he was probably like the biggest highlight for me. But yeah, that whole vampire thing, it's the and I think the documentary style is a genius way of portraying this movie because it would be completely different if it was not a documentary style. If it was like trying to be,
I don't think it would work.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think it would have worked
but
at all.
but the kind of the Office style, looking at the camera, like stuff like that. That's what makes this movie really funny, I think.
And you know what I'm actually realizing at this moment that, and this is probably going to trigger a lot of people,
Oh no.
is I feel like this movie is like the Austin Power movies. And yeah, before you look at me all weird, I didn't like any of the Austin Power movies. I couldn't. It was very hard for me to watch them.
Yeah.
But they are hilarious to talk about. When you talk about the scenes with people, you laugh and it's funny.
Yeah.
But when I was watching the movie, none of these scenes were really funny.
Yeah, because
me.
when you kind of think back on how ridiculous it is, it's like, okay, that was like you're laughing at it. Yeah, I get that.
So like the more we could talk about this movie, I think the more I could find it funny.
Yeah.
Taika Waititi's his character was, I mean, the best in the thing, and some of the things like when he mentions like, my favorite couch is getting blood all over it, just put the paper down.
Yeah.
And then later on he's got a girl over and he's like, he's like trying to talk to her and like have small talk while he's putting paper down and like covering his favorite sofa.
That was literally my favorite part. That was so funny to me. He's literally like, oh no, like don't mind me, just go on, keep talking.
Yeah.
He's like laying paper down and like blankets, making sure everything's covered.
Everything's all covered, and then he's all he like tucks a little thing. Doesn't he like tuck a thing in? He's like he gets his little bit like a napkin ready. And he's like, okay, here we go.
And then he like slowly like inches in, and then just like he bites in, and she's not expecting it, and then just like blood just starts spurting out everywhere.
He makes all this prep to get nothing dirty, and then he like hits the geyser.
Yeah,
and it's just
and
everywhere.
The whole room is bloody. And my favorite part of that whole thing is at the end, he's like talking like in an interview style. He's like, "Yeah, that definitely didn't go as planned. It was a little more messy than I thought, but on the bright side, I thought she had a great time." And I just started dying. You mentioned the bat, and that's something that like it's funny because they take these tropes and they take these like cliches of like vampires and them turning into bats, and like there's one point where two vampires like they both turn into bats and they're like fighting in the air.
And they're like bat fight, bat fight.
One thing I really liked about this movie was the whole vampire and werewolves thing.
Yeah,
and you have they're passing by this gang of guys, and well they're werewolves.
They're werewolves.
But my favorite thing is when one of them like swears.
Yeah.
And they're like, "We're werewolves, not swearwolves."
And then he like fakes the stick throw, and he's like, "Dude, don't fall for that, man. It's a fake, man."
And they're just messing with each other, and like that was a really funny, it's a really clever way of going about the whole vampire and werewolf thing. But yeah, just really hilarious, and how they like kill, and how they turn, and how other people want to be vampires, but they're like reluctant to like do that for them.
Right.
It's just really funny. They have like slaves, but they don't like the S word.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah, they don't like the word slaves. They mentioned slaves in another.
No, I think
instance.
That was Thor, right? Yeah, that was Thor. That was the Grandmaster. He said, I don't like the S
okay,
word.
yeah. So
they're like,
that's separate. Yeah.
They're like servants.
Tangent.
Yeah. No, yeah. Super tangent. We'll get into it.
But I like the movie. I thought it was funny how the local police take this total like naive, oh yeah, this guy just got mauled by this pack of dogs, And just, it's just really bad for the dogs. It's bad for the people, and
And they find a dog.
they find like this stray, lovable, like just regular dog. Then you're just like, oh, puppy, and they're like, bad dog, look what you did. And the dog's like, yo, man, this ain't me.
They're like, yeah, this guy's gonna go to the pound.
He's gonna go to the pound. He's gonna get put down. Look what he did, bad dog.
And Stu was really funny. Like the addition of Stu, just this awkward friend that is like hanging around. They're like, why did you bring a human to this vampire party?
But he's Stu. No, he's great. Yeah. I'm a computer consultant. But no, it's this is definitely a movie that it's fun to talk about.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was rough. It was rough for me to watch. I don't know. Watching that kind of humor, it doesn't get on me. But then thinking about it and talking to someone about it, I think for me is more enjoyable.
Yeah, I think for me, I've become a fan of Taika Waititi at this point. So I'm gonna go back, and there's another movie called Hunt for the Wilderpeople that a lot of people really love too. So I'm gonna give that a shot. But yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of references on that this morning, actually, and I haven't looked it up yet, but I'm like, I haven't heard of that.
Because some of the people in Thor are in
movie. Hunt for the Wilderpeople. Okay, excellent. So that kind of just breaks us, and that puts us right into Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah.
So this is non spoilers. There's no spoilers in this part.
Yes.
What'd you think of Thor?
I loved it. I was completely entertained from beginning to end. It's seriously the funniest Marvel movie, I think.
Oh yes, yeah. I have to agree with that.
And I was literally laughing out loud, and I can't remember like the last time a movie made me do that, like in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just sitting there, just enjoying myself, and it was a good time for me. What about you?
No, I enjoyed it. I thought it was a funny movie. It was highly entertaining. It had a good flow to it. It kept this constant sense of lightheartedness to it, which is I think refreshing in the Marvel genre, because we've had, what is this, 16, 17 movies so far on Marvel, and it's all kind of leading up to this Infinity War, that everyone's looking forward to next year, and this kind of trepidation of what's going to happen. And this is just a really nice, refreshing, lighthearted movie for you to enjoy and laugh at. I do have some issues with it, of course. I think we talked about this, and I'll get into that with spoilers. But overall, I thought it was a great movie. It was so funny.
Totally agree.
Loved all the characters in it.
Yeah, every character I think really stood out. I mean, I don't think there was a real like dull character. I think everyone kind of got their time, and I thought that balance was really good. And the action, what do you think about that? The action was good. I had a couple issues with a lot of the CGI, because it was really good in areas, and then it was kind of like it was obvious in other areas, and I was just kind of like, okay, well, you can't be perfect all the time. Exactly.
So I get it. Other than that, I'm like itching to get right into spoilers.
Let's do it.
Okay. All right. This is the no clapping section. Spoilers. You've been warned. Time coded. Okay.
All right. So
I don't know what it was. I don't know what pissed me off initially. I just remember at the end of the movie, I was just angry.
Yeah, you told me that you left the theater disgusted.
Yeah.
Verbatim disgusted.
Yeah, I was just... I mean, don't get me wrong. It's a funny movie. It's a great action comedy. And I have to put big, bold, neon emphasis on action comedy.
Yeah.
In no way is this any kind of drama. In no way does this represent the actual title, and I can't even say plot, because there was no plot. There really wasn't a plot. I couldn't say there was a I'm sorry. There's not a good plot.
It was a very loose plot.
Very loose.
It was like, here's a premise. we kind of, play with it in the beginning. We'll totally kind of forget about it, and then we'll bring it up in the end.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt.
Yeah.
But yeah, go into that a little more because you were telling me, and it makes a lot of sense. I agree with some of your.
Well, I get the movie, and I totally get Taika Waititi's director style. I understand that a lot of this movie was ad lib, and it was just kind of spur of the moment vocabulary, which is fantastic, and you can tell that in the movie.
Yeah.
But pick another. They should have picked another plot. Ragnarok is the end of Asgard. It's like for us, it's like the apocalypse, the end of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not trivialized. It's not a lighthearted thing. It's a very
it's
doom and gloom,
literally the end
thing.
of the world.
And there was no sense of that whatsoever at all in this movie. Everything in this movie was trivialized.
Yeah,
from the first scene to the last scene.
Yeah, I understand that completely because I think people who know the comics would probably look at the scenes with Surtur and be like, he's supposed to be this menacing bad guy, and you just totally made him a joke.
Yeah.
And the destruction of your whole entire world, it's a joke, and it's whatever. I felt like no one really cared.
Yeah. It didn't make any sense.
It didn't feel like anyone really cared that Asgard was gone. And they're like, no, Asgard is the people. Well, yeah, but also this is the ruler, was the ruler of the 9 realms.
Right.
This is a special place. And I also have a problem with this huge, because every time you see Asgard, it's this huge city.
It's this massive floating, this utopia society, this massive thing.
And somehow they got everyone on
a tiny ship. Yeah, on a tiny little boat.
It was Noah's Ark. What do you expect?
Okay, only two. Okay, leave the kids. It's only 2 of you.
Yeah, we're gonna repopulate somewhere else. So leave the kids. We'll start over. But yeah, I totally get that. I think I want to get to this in a little bit later. But okay, actually, never mind. Let's get into it. So Odin, he's not on the throne anymore, and Thor doesn't even realize this until the beginning of this movie.
Right.
But Loki has been secretly, pretending to be Odin.
Yeah, he's supplanted Odin, and
exactly.
Yeah.
So Thor shows up.
Which doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Well, so Thor shows up, and
Odin the Nut's not so powerful.
Yeah. And he immediately knows it's Loki.
Yeah.
Because Surtur, I think, tells him that Odin has been banished from Asgard. But he shows up, and he's on a mission to find his father. And with doing that, they go to Earth, and they meet Doctor Strange, which I thought was a really cool scene.
I loved Strange. I love the fact that, at the end of Doctor Strange, he kind of came into this realization and this acceptance of his role.
Yeah.
And then you really see him in this cameo, and he's
like, hey, what are you doing here?
What are you doing? I'm charged with looking after this and that, so how can I help you?
Exactly. They showed up, and then all of a sudden he was there.
Yeah.
And that was really cool because it gives you a sense of, okay, Doctor Strange is serious now. He's taking his role seriously, and he's doing a good job. He took care of Loki, right away. And
which was hilarious. Hey, I've been following for 30 minutes.
So good. And that whole... Go ahead.
I love how comfortable he was with his magic. The constant shift and back and forth, and he's like, okay, I need to do this and this and this.
And Thor's just falling over.
Yeah, Thor's kind of just tripping over this and that, all while trying to keep the ever-filling mug of beer.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Exactly. So I love that addition of Doctor Strange. And then he tells him, okay, yeah, I'll take you to your father. Opens up a portal. There you go. And Odin is in Norway, and they kind of have this moment, and to me, it didn't seem like that was really Odin. I felt like that wasn't Odin.
He's just some old dude on a cliff.
Yeah. he didn't seem like the same Odin that we've seen. And then they're sitting there and they're having this moment, or if you could call it a moment, because at first I was like, did he just die?
He poofed into motes of golden sunshine. Yeah.
But see,
I felt it was a Dumbledore moment.
well, also that was no, Dumbledore was completely different. Dumbledore, you actually felt something when he died. Did you feel?
Well, up until the up until the death part. But I mean, as far as like, you know, he's sitting there and he's, you know, it's time for me to go, and you know.
Well, it also reminded me.
know,
It also reminded me a little bit of the scene in Doctor Strange with Tilda Swinton's character.
Yeah.
How she's literally talking to him as she's like right before she's about to die, and it kind of reminded me of that. So it was kind of funny that we had just seen Doctor Strange right before that happened.
But you don't get any sense at all that this is the supreme ruler of King of Asgard. And he conquered and ruled 9 other realms, and he's this powerful force. Yeah, again, another trivialized moment.
Yeah, because I didn't feel anything, and that was one thing I kind of had a problem with. Like when I saw it, I was like, wait, that was it? Like that's the end that Odin deserves? Like no, not at all. So I had a bit of a problem with that. But of course, they move in such a fast pace that I totally forgot until I thought back on it. Like that whole thing, like I totally forgot about it.
Because it wasn't a moment. It made no impact.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
And then we see Hela come through the portal. And what did you think about Cate Blanchett?
I loved her. I thought she was fantastic. I loved her adaptation of the character. I loved the way that she talked and she moved, and like her sassiness and just her vibe.
Yeah,
I loved it.
She was definitely, she's my favorite Marvel villain, I believe. Like I think she was really good, and she has this kind of like, I don't know, this attitude.
She has a charisma about her.
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
But at least, you know, you get a sense right off the bat that you just don't want to mess around with her. You know?
Yeah, she means business.
And she displays that throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
You know, she's just like, I'm a badass.
Yeah.
You know, me and Pops, me and Odin.
Yeah.
You know, and you find out that she's actually the elder sister of Thor and Loki.
What did you think about that?
I was fine with that. That was cool.
I was like, okay,
I understand that whole genealogy. I really like the fact that she tied in and she was like, you know, what you think of your dad is completely wrong. Like we used to kick it back in the day and just beat the shit out of people.
Yeah, like
you know, that's what we did.
Exactly. And where do you think those 9 realms came from? You know, I helped him conquer those. And for some reason he stopped at 9 and he decided to kick me out and decided to have you.
Yeah, and be benevolent in some kind of way.
And so that was a very natural kind of villainous backstory.
Yeah.
I thought that worked really well.
But the interesting thing is like, you get a sense of power and projection from her.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, okay, yeah, cool, man. I can totally see you like destroying all these worlds and just having that ability to do that.
And she's having fun doing it.
And she's loving every minute of it. But then, you know, you go back and you kind of think about, okay, well then, you know, Odin, again, just got completely trivialized because he's just some old dude on a cliff with a patch.
Yeah.
You know, and the wind blows him away and you're going, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you recall in the first trailer, where we see her destroy his hammer, it's in New York. It's not in Norway. And you can definitely tell.
Okay.
Because that green screen was terrible in Norway. Because it's the same exact shot. It's just the background's different.
Yeah.
And yeah, that I felt like that was probably one of the worst green screen moments.
Green screen moments?
Green screen
green
moments.
Screen? Green scene?
Green scene. There's a lot of green scenery.
I fell into that trap.
Yeah. But yeah, that was one of the worst green screen moments of any Marvel movie, I think. And that stuff takes me out of the movie. It really does. Like I'm just like,
when you can blatantly just go, come on, guys. Like,
yeah, so it
you
made
know,
that moment of
did
her
you rush the
destroying-
editing?
Exactly.
You know?
Well, actually, I read a little bit of it, not a lot, but so originally it was supposed to be New York where they find Odin, and they have that kind of confrontation with Hela, but they changed it to Norway to have this kind of more emotional scenery for that moment. But again, it
It didn't matter.
matter
Didn't do
because
anything, yeah.
it might as well have been in an alley in New York because it had no.
I thought maybe that they were, and I don't know, kind of, you know, how this whole plot line's gonna end up, but you know, at the end of the movie, Asgard gets blown up, and now we have all the refugees on a boat, and then they're going, oh yeah, well, we're gonna go back to Earth. We're gonna go to Earth because Asgard's gonna be on Earth now. So I kind of figured out, like, okay, so yeah, Norway would be a cool
That's
place
probably
to
where
kind
they're
of
gonna
relocate because it's more like the whole Asgardian,
Yeah.
I guess, countryside maybe.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I was like, okay, yeah, that sort of makes sense. But you know,
now
immigration's a bitch right now, man. It's
yeah. Good luck. You're not coming to the U.S.
Yeah,
you know that.
We need to vet you.
Yeah,
Completely.
extreme vetting.
Extreme vetting. Yeah.
There's gonna be a wall and everything.
Yeah, because we know most of you Asgardians have ISIS, you know, ties. Because, you know, you're conquerors. You like to, you know, we can't disregard the other 9 realms that, you know, we're still kind of leafing through the petitions. Just, anyways.
Going back, that's a whole other thing.
I could go on that forever.
I know. That's for other podcasts.
But so here's a question.
Okay.
And I didn't know. I think it got tweeted and it got spoiled for a few people, whether or not they saw it or not. I did not know that Matt Damon had a cameo in this movie.
Well, okay, so we both listened to another podcast called The Weekly Planet.
Right.
And they had the scoop that, I don't know if you listened to that episode. They were like, okay, this is kind of spoilers for Thor Ragnarok, but here we go. So we have this kind of rumor that Matt Damon is going to be in Thor Ragnarok as like an Asgardian actor playing Loki in a kind of a play that recounts the events of the first movie. And I thought that was hilarious, and it turned out to be true. So that was really cool. I thought it was a funny addition, but ultimately it didn't do anything really.
It didn't add to anything. It was fun to watch. You know, Sam Neill's playing Odin.
Yeah.
You know, and they had some little blue kid as, you know, baby Loki. It was cute. It was cute. It was funny. You know.
But moving into, like, you know, other characters, because there are a lot of characters in this movie, and they're all done really well, I think.
Well, I got to give it to Tessa Thompson. Tessa Thompson, who, you know, we get introduced to, and we later find out that she's a Valkyrie who was actually in the last battle with Hela before she got banished. And there's some backstory there, but she was fantastic. I loved her.
I love Tessa Thompson, you know, in whatever she does. She was in Westworld. I don't know if you saw Creed, but she's great. Yeah.
She brought a great sassiness and kind of spunk to this new kind of the Revengers, the Revengers that
and she's hilarious.
That Thor put together.
Yeah.
I thought that Korg was hilarious. The Rock dude, the Rock Gladiator,
and you know who voices him?
Yeah, the director Taika Waititi.
So good.
I actually thought, because when I was listening to him, I thought it was the other New Zealand guy who did like District 9 and some of the other movies.
I don't know his name.
I'm gonna look him up.
Do it.
I'm gonna look him up. You're gonna know exactly who I'm talking about. Sharlto Copley. Sharlto Copley.
I think I recognize his face, but I don't know that name.
Yeah, he's done a couple of voice cameos before, but he's got I thought that was him. I was like, all right, cool, man. He's got a little cameo in it.
Funny.
But it actually turned out to be Taika Waititi, which is fine. It had the same effect. But he was great. He was a good little kind of comedy relief in there.
Yeah.
Poor Doug.
Yeah.
Poor Doug. He got Dougied.
We also get introduced to the Grandmaster, Jeff Goldblum.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so funny.
I don't even think he had a script. I think him and Taika were just like, yeah, man, just go out there, do your thing, because I know you're gonna kill it, man. You're gonna kill it.
Like, and he was perfect, and he didn't even have to do anything. He was just himself, and it worked so well. And then, of course, Mark Ruffalo is back as the Incredible Hulk.
As the Hulk, and Ruffalo got a little bit of as the Banner. He got a little bit of Banner in there, but it was mostly the big green guy.
Yeah.
How did you like the big green guy?
I thought it was
like Hulk.
I think it was a really funny and interesting way of taking that character, because he's been gone for 2 years, and they explained that really well. I think. Mm-hmm. He was in the Quinjet. He crash landed on this planet through one of the portals. And what?
Yeah, sort of. They explained it.
No,
where did a portal? Where was there a portal in Earth that he pops through?
Well, that Quinjet probably went. He flew just into space, and then.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I thought he was just, because I know that they thought he crashed over an ocean.
No, I think they just said he disappeared.
He disappeared. Oh, so maybe he flew up.
Yeah.
And then
and that was a big conversation point leading up to this, like how did he get there? But I thought they explained that pretty well.
Well, they wanted to lead into that whole kind of Planet Hulk side story.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they're going to do in any way, shape, or form a solo Hulk movie.
No,
so
they're absolutely not. Because those rights still belong to Universal. Yeah, Universal.
So I think they gave everybody a little bit of the Planet Hulk, which they've been screaming for. They gave them a taste of that, which I thought was kind of interesting because, we get introduced to Hulk because Thor gets captured. Mm-hmm. He gets put into the arena to fight the champion of the Grandmaster, and then we find out that the champion is Hulk, of course. Now, so here's what I kind of felt another kind of trivialization is that Hulk seemed extremely underpowered in this movie. I just didn't feel, in every other kind of instance, Hulk comes in and he just dominates whatever he's doing.
Well, I think the case can be made that this is a different planet, and you don't know
the same laws of physics.
Yeah, and you don't know everyone else's power sets. Mm-hmm. And it was great seeing Thor and Hulk kind of go at it, because they were both just pounding on each other, and that was really fun to watch. But yeah, I mean, I was okay with it ultimately. Like the Hulk's dialogue and his kind of 2-year-old sense, so funny. I think that worked on so many levels.
Hulk, raging flame, raging fire.
And when he finally gets back into that Bruce Banner body, he's like, what happened? He doesn't even know what happened in the last 2 years.
He's been stepped out for 2 years.
And I thought that was really cool. And because, that's something that we haven't explored with Hulk. And it remains, a very interesting point of that character is like, where does the Hulk begin and where does Banner end and stuff like that.
Right.
So that was a really cool addition. And I thought it was funny how they had some of Tony Stark's clothes in the back of the Quinjet. And those little references, they're just hilarious to me.
He wears really tight jeans.
He keeps adjusting
he keeps
himself.
adjusting himself.
He's so good. Here, let's see.
I can't. It's hard for me to talk about the end of this movie because it doesn't make any sense to me in this aspect. They understand, Thor kind of comes into his own. He kind of understands that he loses his hammer in the beginning of the movie. Hela just crushes it, and you're just going, and you get an immediate sense of her power.
Yeah.
That she can just kind of crush it like glass so easily. And then he's obviously intimidated. And then he kind of comes into the fact that, oh, you know, I am the god of thunder and I didn't really need the hammer, and the hammer just kind of helped me focus things.
I like that.
That was cool.
That part, yeah.
But even coming into that realization, he still wasn't a match for Hela.
Well,
you know,
also Hela, I mean, is this...
She's the god of death.
Yeah, I mean...
Yeah, how do you kill death?
Yeah,
you just
exactly.
Don't.
And also, she's not dead. She's not gone.
Right, yeah. So I'm assuming that, but kind of the way they made it look, you know, I'm like, okay, so she's kicking ass the whole movie, and then she's like decimating Thor, and then Thor, you know, and you know, this iconic Thor gets his butt kicked for 10 minutes, and then he finds his inner power, and then he fights back, which is cool. I like the fact that he didn't defeat her in that last moment. He was just like, yeah, man, I just threw like the mother of all lightning bolts at her, and she just shrugged.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but then, you know, they decide to just do the whole, you know what, let's just do the Ragnarok thing. It's all cool. You know, home is where the heart is, kind of whatever sentimentality. Let's hang a plaque on the wall and put an apron on. Fine. But then they summon Surtur, right? He turns into this big, giant, flaming behemoth, and then he starts just whacking at
everything.
At Asgard with his big sword, and then Hela's, you know, she's trying to like fight him off, and then he takes probably at least 5 minutes to swing his sword down at Hela as she stands still, and then you get the sense that he's defeated her, and then the whole thing blows up. Yeah, again, just trivialized everything up to that moment.
Yeah, you didn't feel anything ultimately, and yeah, I mean that was one thing looking back. It was like definitely. I mean, there was no weight to this storyline, and what you were saying before is like, you know, this was a really fun movie. I had a really great time, but just pick a different story. Why does it have to? This would work if it wasn't called Ragnarok, because that is essentially
it could have been something totally
apocalypse.
It could have been something completely different.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
It could have been Thor just finding Hulk. I mean, and just kind of that adventure. I mean, it could have been a whole adventure
continuation of him trying to find
more Infinity Stones, and he stumbles upon the Hulk, you know, and he comes back. But that's the part I was disgusted, and it's not any fault of anybody's. I think they did the best that they could, but
what happened was they essentially said, "Hey, here we are in the story. We need to get to this point. Taika Waititi, do your thing.
Do your thing, yeah."
And he was like, all right, cool. We're going to have some fun. But yeah, at the end, this is going to happen. And I don't think a lot of thought was put into how
we got from A to Z. Yeah. So it actually kind of, I wonder if during this process, because there's been some controversy over the Star Wars Stories Han Solo movie.
Yeah.
Right? Where the original directors got fired. They brought in
Ron
Howard, and he basically kind of reshot the entire movie.
Yeah. He essentially he reshot everything. He had the same amount of shooting schedule as they did.
So now here's something that I thought about after I was done with Thor. Was I don't know how much of a kind of insight other companies have with other productions and stuff like that. But I wonder if, you know, Disney took a look at, you know, Taika Waititi's version of this Thor movie, and they're going, okay, yeah, I see what he's doing. And then our directors on the Solo movie are kind of going in the same direction. And this is not the vibe that we want for this movie. It's not a comedy.
Yeah, there might have been those conversations, but I think that what are their names?
I was kind of like, you know, I figured you'd know them. I was skirting around the issue. You're good with names. I just giggle.
Yeah, exactly. Here, let's see. Okay, yeah, Lord and Miller.
Right?
Yeah, they did the 21 and 22 Jump Street. They did the Lego Movie. I think there might have been those conversations, but I think that Star Wars is different. I think because there were some jokes in Thor that I was like, yeah, you could not get away with this in a Star Wars movie.
You couldn't.
Yeah.
And so
and you could barely get away with it in the
barely get away.
Marvel
And
movie.
this is because it's rated PG-13. So okay, cool. It's rated PG-13.
Yeah.
But I wonder when, and I feel for parents in this aspect because there's two very, very blatant masturbation references in this movie, and there's a blatant sodomy
Yeah.
reference in this movie, and having to, if your kid picks up on that, how do you
They're like,
how
"Hey,
do you
Mom,
how do you talk through that?
Mom, what's an orgy?
Yeah, what's an orgy? What is that? Is that a shake weight? I don't. Yeah, why is he tugging on his hammer? And why do they want to go through the anus? And it's funny.
It's
but at
funny,
the same
but-
time, you're just going. There are kids.
Yeah,
they're going
like,
to
I'm
watch this.
sitting next to the kid right
Yeah,
now.
and they're looking completely confused.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
But going back to Lord and Miller, like I think they were just doing a little too much because I think Taika Waititi, even though he seems like this person who doesn't take anything seriously, I can tell that he does take his work seriously and he has a lot of passion for what he does. I was reading about some of the scenes that were in Thor and how he kind of put them together, and like yeah, he does have this understanding of how to make a really great movie, and I'm sure Lord and Miller do too, but I feel like they were just kind of going way off the rails.
Way off the rails.
Whereas Taika he seemed like it, but at all times he was centered.
He was still keeping to the spirit of the MCU.
Yeah. And maybe it's just the fact that the MCU has room to go to those places, but the Star Wars movies they have to stick to a certain feel.
Yeah, there's not really anything comedic in that atmosphere.
I mean, there is comedy in Star Wars, but it's not explicit kind of comedy and that you would expect from a Lord and Miller or
True.
True.
Anyways,
anyway.
Side tangent.
I can't wait for what's next. Well, Black Panther's next, but we got one little cutscene.
We got a little cutscene at the end.
Post-credit scene.
Was there wasn't one at the way end because I left after the post-credit scene.
There was, but it was just it was the Grand Master. He stumbles out of whatever ship after he gets shot down, and everyone surrounds him because there's this like big uprising against him, and he's like, hey, he's just Jeff Goldbluming everything.
Okay.
But yeah, it's nothing really. But the mid-credit scene, you see Thor, he takes his place, on the throne, and
the captain's chair of the ship.
Yeah, exactly.
That his entire civilization, and his entire race of Asgardians are crammed and stacked into.
All right.
Yeah.
And then this massive ship pops up,
which
and this thing is, and I mean,
Thanos's ship.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it could be anyone else's. I'm pretty sure. Like, it's pretty clear that it's Thanos.
Right.
And you're like, oh, what's gonna happen? And I thought that scene was gonna lead right into the Avengers Infinity War trailer, and I was
pissed that we didn't get it.
I was super pissed.
I was like, why not?
This would be the perfect time.
Why not? Yeah.
This would be the absolute perfect time. So now it's almost like set in stone that it's going to be with Star Wars. I think so.
If they don't release it in Star Wars, then they're not going to release it until whenever. They'll think of some other trivial thing.
Black Panther 2 months before? Like,
yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I don't get it.
Yeah, and one thing we didn't talk about that I want to touch on briefly. Thor has one eye now. How did you feel about that?
We talked about it. I didn't know that it follows that storyline in the comics.
Yes.
I was like, for me, it was unnecessary. I didn't get it. I was like, why would you take his eye? He's not Odin.
But
he's not going to get any special powers. I mean, Odin's one eye is specific to Norse mythology, and there's no tie-in for Thor in that mythology. So I didn't get it. I thought it was like,
But I think this is something in the comics too, where he's becoming his father as he's getting older. He's getting more mature. He's now the king of Asgard, and now he has one eye, which I think is a good look. I like him with the one eye and the short hair. I think that worked really well too.
I like this. Yeah, I like the short hair. I just didn't get the eye. It was just too similar. It's like, okay, for me, it was just another thing that was trivialized. It's like, okay, oh, he took my eye, and now I'm going to be my dad.
I was okay with it.
Okay. Okay, so that means you're going to end up on Norway on some cliff, and you're just going to poof into like gold motes, and we're not going to feel anything about you. All right, cool, man. Whatever. Go Thor.
You're a little salty.
He's angry. No, I'm definitely going to own this movie.
Absolutely.
I'll definitely watch it over and over again.
Yeah.
And I've heard from other people that, their first kind of their first go through of the movie, it was like, yeah, it was okay. And then they watched it a second time and they're like, yeah, man, yeah, it's really good. So I think once...
Wait, Thor?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I think that if I watch it a second and then a third time, I'm going to love it even more because, all of my misconceptions and all of those things I already understand.
Yeah,
so now I can just purely enjoy the movie for its fun and its excitement. So, man, I can't wait for Black Panther. That's going to be even more fun.
That's going to be a lot of fun, and the action's going to be crazy. It's going to be nice, seeing a new setting.
Yeah.
Because we've had...
New setting, new characters, new style, I think.
Yeah.
Hopefully some new action sequences.
Yeah.
Because I'm just assuming here that demographic and that kind of background and history is going to give us a little bit something than what we would see in any other kind of like martial arts type of scene of fighting. So I'm kind of looking forward to that as well.
Yeah. Because we don't know a whole lot about this Black Panther. So it's going to be really cool to see everything. So
yeah, we got a snippet of him in Civil War, which was everybody was like, "Woo, yeah!"
Yeah, I loved everything about him in Civil War, and Chadwick Boseman. He's an amazing actor.
He is very talented,
and the whole cast of Black Panther is actually really talented. So yeah, February can't come fast enough.
Well, the way this year's going,
yeah,
it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now next week, we talked a little bit about Star Wars, so we'll just kind of plug this in. Next week we have Battlefront II being released finally. Mm-hmm. I think the 17th of November. If you pre-ordered it, you get early access. I think on the 14th.
Did you pre-order?
I pre-ordered. I played a little bit of the beta. The beta was phenomenal.
It looks great.
I was completely blown away with the space combat.
Nice.
Because I grew up with X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, and then the TIE Fighter series, which is probably one of the best space sims ever made. And then getting into the flight sim on this game was just the exact feel of what I wanted to fly a TIE Fighter, the exact feel of what I wanted to fly an X-Wing. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, that's gonna be so fun.
So for those of you who don't, I highly suggest looking into this game. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully, the single player looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. The multiplayer was hilariously fun. And I'm not a big multiplayer type of person, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. And I can definitely see a lot of my life hours getting sunk into this game.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I really can't wait. So that'll be next week. We'll talk a little bit about that.
That'll be next week. So I think so. Yeah. Well, early access will be on the 14th. So actually, should get some good gameplay in by not our next podcast, but the podcast after that. We'll have like a pretty good review.
Yeah.
Are you gonna buy it?
Oh yeah, of course.
Okay. So, but you're gonna play it on the PS4.
Yeah, you have it on PC.
Yeah, everything's PC for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm PC all the way. Just can't do my old fat arthritic hands just can't do the little game pads.
Well, yeah. See, I have very young and nimble, skinny little hands. Yeah. So.
If I had a regular old school joystick and big giant fat buttons to push. I could do that, but yeah, the little controllers. I just after a couple hours, my thumbs just get they start to hurt.
But I don't think we won't be able to play it in time for the next episode. But for next week, we're thinking a little bit of.
I'm not sure we've decided what that's going to be.
Yeah, well. It's a surprise, guys.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
this is a planned surprise.
This is a surprise. Clap, clap, clap.
But all right. So, what have you been watching recently?
Well, we talked a little bit, in one of our previous podcasts. You watched the first couple of episodes of Star Trek Discovery, which is the new Star Trek show that came out.
Yeah, you had recommended it to me.
Yeah,
and
you just couldn't.
No, I couldn't stay with it. I watched 4 episodes, and I mean, those are 4 hours I'll never get back. But you decided to stay with it.
Yeah, I've been sticking with it, and I decided as well because the Orville, which is Seth MacFarlane's adaptation of this kind of Star Trek kind of genre, came out roughly at the same time, so they've both kind of almost been popping out episodes. I watched the first one of that, and I didn't really kind of know where I was going to go on it. Started watching Star Trek, but now I've been watching both at the same time, and I gotta say, for those of you like myself that have watched The Next Generation and Voyager and Deep Space Nine and are used to that kind of old school Star Trek genre, the Orville is for you. It is completely comfortable. It's funny. It's got great moments. It's got serious moments. The special effects are fantastic. And that's exactly how it feels, where Star Trek Discovery just completely goes off the rails. It's decent, but you just don't feel the same kind of. There's no camaraderie. I can't do it. Camaraderie. There's no cohesion with the crew. There we go. They're not friends.
Man, that ran into that.
Was rough.
And just backed up and went another way.
That's what you got to do sometimes. You just got to pause, rewind, go around, detour. And it's rough, man. It's rough to watch. You just can't get invested into it. Where like the Orville, I sunk in.
Yeah.
Like I was like, okay, I know who all these people are and what their dynamic is, and they're all kind of like they're all buddies already. Let's get into some fun, Yeah. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
What about yourself? What have you been perusing?
So a few of my friends have recommended this show called Big Mouth on Netflix.
Okay.
It's like this animated show. I think there's only like 10 episodes. Created by Nick Kroll, who you may know.
Why does that name sound familiar?
Look him up.
I got to look it up.
So Nick Kroll, he's hilarious. Hilarious comedian. And then so it stars him, John Mulaney, who I think has some of the best stand-ups on Netflix. So if you haven't seen John Mulaney's Netflix stand-up specials, you need to watch those. But yeah, so it's starring them. It's basically about these like 12-year-old like 6th graders going through puberty.
Oh.
And it's just this R-rated, like just...
Is it R-rated?
Well, I don't think it is rated.
Yeah.
It's completely explicit. They're talking about everything.
It's TVMA, so mature audiences may not be suitable for children 17 and under.
It's absolutely not suitable.
It's absolutely not suitable. I don't like that.
Look.
Yeah, it's real. It's not suitable at all.
No. I mean, and the first episode, because I'm 4 episodes in, I believe. The first episode, you're like, what am I watching? Because there are some things that they say, some things that they show, and it's 12-year-olds going through puberty. And the first scene is them in a sex ed class. And they're like, what's a fallopian tube? And, there's like this one part where...
It sounds like a type of neon. Like if you just say it by itself, like And you know
Yeah, I
anything
think they
about
make a
lighting?
reference.
It's
They're
like,
like,
is that a
they're like, what is
nightlight?
that?
Is it like a fluorescent lamp? Is it?
Or they're like, what's a uterus? I thought girls had vaginas. Like, but that's like just that's the tip.
It's just
That's just the tip.
It's just the tip, folks. That's all you want.
There's
You only want the tip.
well, there's a whole lot more.
Anything beyond that comes with repercussions.
Yeah, there's a whole lot, and it just goes, no pun intended, balls to the wall, because it's crazy and it's hilarious, but it's also such a weird show that to me, I had kind of a hard time like kind of getting past these few episodes, but there's the good outweighs the bad for me, and so that's what keeps me going.
It sounds like it's perfect for me.
Yeah, I really want to get your take on it because it's crazy and I've never seen anything like it.
Okay.
So,
All right. I'll check that out.
Yeah, so that's what I'm watching. I'm gonna finish that up in the next couple of days. But you were watching Mindhunter last time I checked.
Right. Yeah. So Mindhunter is a new series that came out on Netflix. I read a couple of reviews on it. I wasn't sure about it.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the first episode. I was kind of like, oh, okay. No spoilers. For those of you who are not sure about it, the premise revolves about, I think this is a mid-70s era. You know, crime at that time, you know, you had the bad guys, you had the good guys. You had the police, you had the FBI. You know, they kind of had this very simplistic and naive way of looking at bad guys and their motives and things like that. You know, the husband killed the wife because he was jealous. You know, A equals B equals C. It's very cut and dry. Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of things going on. But at this time frame, you've got the Manson murders. You've got all these other serial killings going on, and you know, these people have been locked up, but I guess the behavioral science has not been developed yet.
Yeah.
You know, they understand the motive, but they don't understand the reason why they did something specific. You know, if somebody cut up a body and displayed it because that's what they did, that's how they did all their different serial killings, they didn't understand why. What pushed the person and the psyche to go to those extremes. So
this is going into the mind.
So this is the FBI's early kind of delve into the behavioral science of profiling serial killers. So there's a couple of guys in here. One I recognize, but I can't really tell you what he's been in, but some of you might find him familiar. And then we've got a new player on the block as well, and they both do a fantastic job. Holt McCauley, I think, is the guy that I recognize. Jonathan Groff is the new guy in this. Anna Torv, who I love, she was in Fringe, which was primetime, you know, kind of like an X-Files sort of show that was on for a while. Love that show. She does a fantastic job, and it's just these guys going in and developing this psychological profiling science, and you automatically get a sense of they have no idea what they're doing.
Yeah, like
this is all brand new. They don't know how to, you know, categorize these things, deal with these things, think in these terms. And, you know, you really have to kind of understand that in that time frame, you know, people were, I think, prudish would be the right word. You know, you didn't talk about certain things. You definitely didn't discuss about, you know, sex and violent, lewd, you know, kind of scenarios. Yeah. And your verbiage, and the verbiage that was acceptable was extremely limited. So you get this sense of naivety from the FBI in general. You know, this is supposed to be crazy. The top dog thing. So it's fantastic. It's a great show.
Nice.
I finished it. It left you hungry and wanting more. So I highly recommend it to anybody that loves crime and dramas and things like that. So
yeah. I think I'll definitely hop onto that and check that out. So anything else you've been doing?
No, I'm definitely gonna jump into Big Mouth now, I think. Other than that, I have a few things on my radar. I'm not too sure about a couple of things that I'm watching. I think the more I get into them, I'll kind of like fish them out to you and see what you think. But we'll talk about that next week, I think.
Okay, cool. So yeah, that's been the show.
Yeah, so that wraps up episode 5.
Episode 5.
Cinco.
Man, we're just
5 down, fire, 5 to go, 5 after that. baby single steps.
Exactly. So yeah, join us next week for a surprise episode.
Next week we're gonna have some surprises. But then that's going to lead up into a very, very busy couple of weeks for us.
Yeah.
So that'll be exciting.
Yeah.
But yeah, join us again.
Yeah. If you guys want to reach the show, email us at postproductionpod@gmail.com. Any questions you want to throw at us, any scenarios, theories, and just, what are you watching? What are some things that you guys recommend? You can also find us on Twitter and Instagram, and then follow both of us individually as well.
I'm on Twitter. I think it's Mr. Drew LV.
Is that your handle?
Yeah, at
Perfect.
Mr. Drew LV. Yeah.
Yeah, he's new. I'm also at Adam Scadam, so you can follow me there. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes, leave a review, tell a friend. It means the world to us. And spread the word.
Yeah, hit that like button, hit that thumbs up. But if you don't like it, at least think about somebody else that you hate when you hit that thumbs down.
Yeah, exactly. Recommend it to someone you hate.
Yeah, there you go.
But anyways, that's been all for this week. Can't wait for the next one.
All right, we'll see you guys soon.
All right, guys.
Bye.
Bye.